Climate change is not a typical topic of discussion before a business group, but it's exactly what guest speaker Dr. Romina King spoke on at a recent meeting of the Guam Rotary Club.
I understand that some of you don't believe in climate change and some of you do, but climate change is real. It's been happening for the last 4.6 billion years for the Earth's history. You know, the climate that we have now hasn't always been the climate that the Earth has had.
Dr. King is an assistant professor at UOG and an expert in natural resource management and climate change. Her presentation was on building business resiliency in a changing climate. She says the big multinationals and global insurance firms are starting to take it very seriously. A case in point is British wine and beer giant Diageo.
It's not that Diageo necessarily loves the environment, but what they do love is making money. So they want to maximize their profits. And one of the ways they did that, while being green and climate friendly, was they cut their carbon emissions. So to lower their operating costs, they decided to go towards renewable energies. And when they did that, immediately their profit margins rose because there was no energy costs that they had to expend anymore.
Local banker Phil Flores says he is among the skeptics, but he and King agree that whether natural or man-made, the world still needs to deal with the changes in climate.
Whether you believe in global warming or not, and I can remember my grandparents saying to my aunts and uncles when I was a little child, oh, the weather's changing. So you're right, the weather's changing all the time. But I think as technology gets further and further along, more and more people can use their solar panels, can recycle their water and do other things to make themselves green. So I don't know, I'm just saying that because I'm not a real big believer. I just believe it's nature that's going on. But in the meantime, we do everything we can to cut down consumption.
I agree with you. My own mother doesn't really believe in climate change, which hurts my heart, but that's okay. But she is very practical, and she is all about saving money. And if these green technologies save her money, then she's all for it.
For Guam, King says the biggest climate threats are typhoons, and coastal and residential flooding are big problems here.
When we entered into that El Nino, you saw an increase in typhoon and tropical storm activity for the island of Guam. You know, and prior to that, we were in a La Nina where it was a lot quieter, if you will. So if we see more El Ninos happening in the future, then we need to prepare for that and what that would mean for us. Maybe increased typhoons in the beginning of El Nino and then drought towards the latter phases of that El Nino. But we should be prepared.
King says global companies are recognizing the need to become more resilient in the face of changing climates and severe weather conditions. There is a new trend to protect supply chains, operations, and customers. King says she saw it for herself at an international climate change conference in New York last fall. She says Guam companies would do well to follow the lead of big business and put plans in place to mitigate any impacts.
Well, first they should accept it. Just say, okay, this is a risk, and they should just review their operations and pick out vulnerabilities and review their insurance plans too to make sure that they are covered for things like flooding or events associated with typhoons. By viewing it as a risk, they can say, okay, how can we minimize this risk? And what can we do to avoid this risk, or what is our plan B or plan C, you know, to safeguard our business interests and maximize our profits at the same time.
For KOM's Business Matters, I'm Nestor Lecanto.